Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We are going to give it a couple of minutes so that more people can roll in and then we'll get started. Hello, Greg.
Hey, how are you?
Very good. Thank you. How are you?
Doing pretty well, thanks.
Yes, very excited to meet you finally. We love what you do. We're going to give it a couple of minutes to allow people to join and then we'll get started.
Sounds good.
All right, I'm going to start with introducing ENS Academy and then we'll introduce our guest speaker today. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We are ENS Academy. We're here to accelerate the adoption of ENS worldwide with education. We bring ENS experts and entrepreneurs to share their knowledge with the global community. Our goal is to educate, support, and empower anyone who can benefit from this technology. We believe ENS to be an open public good that belongs to the community. ENS Academy aims to be the place where we can all learn the fundamentals, skills, and possibilities of ENS. Today we have Greg Skrill with us. He is the founder of many, many projects, actually, not just ENS Ferry and ETH Leaderboard. I was looking at his portfolio of projects and it's very impressive. And I don't think we have the time to go over all of it. But Greg, thank you for joining us today. Welcome to the space.
Thanks for having me.
Greg, I want to start by first learning a bit more about you um, and what you do and how you started in this space. So, if you can just tell us a little bit about who you are, what's your day to day, or what do you do in your daily kind of work, career related aspect, and what got you into Web3?
For sure. Yeah. So I'm Greg. I kind of born and raised East Coast of the U.S. I went to school in the area as well, and I just graduated college a few months ago. So I, at the same time of graduating college, all of this crypto stuff and Web3 stuff more specifically started to kind of pick up, and to the point where I am now kind of just exploring Web3 full time. So I first I've been interested in crypto for a while, a few years kind of passively, not really doing much about it. And then super actively into it, I really fell down the rabbit hole last August, so a little over a year ago, and have just been kind of diving deeper ever since. And one of the first few things I came across happened to be ENS, and it just happened to stick. So it's still interesting today, and it's one of my kind of favorite things to work on in this space.
Yeah, what made you interested in ENS when you first heard about it? What was it like? What was the experience like for you?
I mean, the first few days that I was getting into Web3, it was me and my friend that were trying to like figure out how to buy an NFT, and it was pretty difficult. And so one of us transferred in ETH or USDC or whatever it was from Coinbase, and then we're going to send it to each other. But it was really annoying to copy and paste the long address and make sure it was set up correctly and everything like that. So from literally my first day in crypto, I felt the frustration of like these whatever 42 character strings of like OX blah 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 is just not gonna work. um, and so when I came across ENS like probably a week in, it just made so much sense of like naming alone. If you forget about everything else, it's like this has to happen, and ENS was and is the most adopted and used, and it kind of just works mostly everywhere. So that's the initial excitement. Just like with not having an ENS name is frustrating to use crypto, and having an ENS name solves that right off the bat.
Oh, absolutely. We always say here at the ENS Academy how ENS removes friction, which is a major hurdle for mass adoption. You know, if you want to send even funds from wallet to wallet, you have to copy the long wallet address. It happened to me once, actually. Funny story. I was using ENS Ferry, and I was onboarding my brother who's in the Middle East. He never really interacted with crypto. So he has a PC, he downloaded MetaMask, and he copied and pasted the MetaMask address so I can send him his ENS. And what happens is when he pasted the address, there was like some kind of a virus on his computer that masks the address with a different address for the hacker's address. And I ended up sending the ENS name to that hacker's wallet because we didn't double check that long wallet address. But with ENS, you don't have to worry. You just have to make sure you type the name correctly. And it's funny that trying to get the ENS, we got hacked, and so you're absolutely right. I believe ENS is going to help with mass adoption in ways we still can't understand. Tell us a little bit about, you know, so you're a developer and you're building all these projects. What made you start with ENS Ferry, or what did you start with if it wasn't ENS Ferry?
Yeah, I think it might seem like I've been a developer for many years or just like really good at this stuff. And I always like to remind people and just like remind myself, honestly, of like I, a year ago, or maybe a little over a year ago, did not know how to do almost anything that I'm doing on a daily basis today. Like I've been making kind of static, more boring, like informational type websites for a handful of years, but nothing that was like interactive or had any sort of like authentication, like wallets, or could talk to external databases or like blockchains, even more so. And so I really just got into that stuff more recently, and really getting into Web3. It worked the opposite way of most people. I feel like a lot of the developers in this space are like coming from tech and then learning the Web3 part of it. Whereas for me, I was somewhat familiar with how like a lot of this tech stuff works, but actually coming into Web3 is what like accelerated my desire to learn all this stuff. Um, so I'd say like I'm really still, and more so like a year ago or even 6 months ago, learning as I do each project. It's not rare for me to start a project and not have any idea how to do it. Um, and so that happens pretty often. But I'd say the first like big project that I worked on was the leaderboard, um, which was in December of last year, maybe even it was end of November or early December. And it was just a very rough version compared to what you see now. But it was kind of the start of the idea. And I kind of just learned alongside it and grew it over time.
And why the ETH leaderboard? I mean, it's obvious, right? You want to highlight the biggest names in ENS that are using an ENS name, at least as their Twitter handle. But what was the logic behind starting that? Why did you do it?
Yeah, so there was actually a tweet from this account called Ultrasound Money, and I don't know how I could find it because it was a long time ago at this point. But they basically tweeted a link to like a Google sheet, which was a few, or maybe it was 100 big names or brands that use their .eth on Twitter, and a few of the comments, and just like naturally, I thought it would be cool to make that something into more of a website than just a Google sheet. So first of all, it was like, let's just put this information that they already have into kind of a slightly nicer format. And then people kept asking like, oh, can you make it update kind of automatically? Or, oh, can you show more than 100 names? And then I kind of just um, took it from there. So the inspiration definitely came from those guys, Ultrasound Money, and it was I make sure to give credit to them for the idea.
Well, I'm really inspired by your story. I mean, you just started last year, and like you said, you're kind of new in the space, and already have great projects that are helping the ENS ecosystem. That's just so good to hear because it's going to inspire many newcomers onto the space that they can too start and build tools on top of ENS. I mean, the possibilities in my mind are endless.
100%. I think it's I, I I I think it's important and like exciting for people to come in and not necessarily need to have the tech background to get started. It's like it's okay to be learning while you're doing this crypto stuff as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a bit about ENS Ferry. What is it and how does it work?
Yeah, so ENS Ferry, which is at ensferry.xyz, is the easiest way, or I hope it's the easiest way for anybody to gift an ENS name to anybody else. And so this came about kind of over time from a few different reasons. So one is like the name ENS Ferry comes from validator.eth, who, if you don't follow him on Twitter, you definitely should. He works at TNL, which is the like company that works on development for ENS. But he's also just like even before that, he's been known to be the ENS Ferry. He was like he coined that for himself, or maybe somebody else coined it for him. But the reason he got called that is because he would just always gift ENS names to people, just because he enjoyed it. Um, and so it really made sense to like build a brand out of that. And I know he was thinking about it for a while, but just like nobody really got around to it. And so after I was talking to him for a while, and I also just like happened to give away names sometimes. I was at a dinner once, right before the ENS Ferry came out, and I was like struggling to gift somebody a name because I had to do all these different steps. And so, kind of a combination of myself feeling frustrated when it's a little difficult or expensive or takes a few extra minutes to gift a name, and validator.eth just like being the ENS Ferry, um, both kind of led me to make the site, which again I hope is just the easiest way that allows anybody to gift an ENS name to any address.
Yeah, and you have a feature there called the Vault. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah. So the ENS Ferry website started as, or actually, I think it launched. Yeah, it did launch with both. But my idea was to start it just with the gifting, and then when I showed it to Validator and a few other people, they thought it was the perfect like opportunity to mix in gifting names with also just like keeping names safe for other people to get later. So, for example, if I'm sitting at a dinner and I want to, and I'm talking to somebody about crypto, and then it leads to Web3, and then it leads to ENS, and I offer to get them a name on the spot, then it's fine. I just send it to them, and that's that. And I can use the ferry for that to save a few minutes and to save a few dollars. Um, but the other case is like, let's say I am walking down the street and I notice a cool clothing brand um, that I think should uh, have their ENS name or have their brand name as an ENS available when they're ready to claim it. Just because I think all of ENS and all of crypto will do better if the right people have their names. Um, it is it would be nice of me to reserve that name for them, right? But I don't want to have to remember all of these names that I register for people, and I'm probably not going to be able to send it to them on the spot. So the ENS Ferry Vault is kind of the best solution to that, or again, I hope the best solution to that. And so it is a multi-sig wallet governed by a few people from TNL. And it basically is meant to hold any name that is meant for a brand or a personality or anything like that in the future. So if I'm walking down the street, I see a clothing brand name that I think is really cool, or I come across a big brand name online that their name is available, I can register it directly to the vault, and those guys will make sure it gets to the right brand or personality when they're ready for it.
That's awesome. I remember I minted bullet journal.eth, and I use the bullet journal method for tracking my tasks and to-dos. And my intention was when I got it is to actually give it to them so that they can utilize it. And there's so much potential for them to create communities with subdomains. And so I'm going to be using the vault to do that. Thank you so much for building that. And for everybody in this space, thank you for joining. We have Greg, who created the ENS Fairy tool and the Leaderboard. Please check them out. It's very interesting. They also created many other projects like ENS Fees, and a bunch of Dune Analytics dashboards for the ENS community. Please retweet the space so that more people can join us and learn. And yeah, my next question would be, what do you think about subdomains, and what are the top three use cases for subdomains in your mind?
That's a good question. I think subdomains are really exciting for a few reasons. I'd say, first of all, they're really nice personally. So just like for organization, say I have like a burner wallet or a wallet that I use to mint stuff and kind of be a little less careful with. And then I have like a vault wallet. And then say I have another thing for people delegating tokens or whatever. That is not necessarily what I do, but I know people with that exact setup. And so one way of doing it is just like I have to be I have to be on my phone or computer that has that wallet to be able to easily like find what I'm looking for. Or I can set up an ENS name and set up those other wallets as subdomains. So for example, if I had uh, gregsquirrel.eth, right? I could set one wallet to cold.gregsquirrel.eth and another one to votes.gregsquirrel.eth and whatever. And this makes it very easy for me wherever I am to just like know what's going on in my wallets because I can look them up without actually having the long address on my phone. And it also makes it easy for me to like share that wallet with somebody. If somebody's asking for um, asking for my wallet address to transfer me something, then I don't have to go and look up what each address is. I kind of just know it based on the name and the purpose of it. So the first use case, and I think the one that is most like applicable to most individuals out there, is just organization and like branding. Um, the next case, I guess, would be like communities. And so one example of that, I like the Lil Nouns. If you guys are familiar with that, Lil Nouns, the spinoff from Nouns, um, they had Lil Nouns.eth, and then a community member uh, built an ENS contract that allows anybody to claim a subdomain of lilnouns.eth if you own a Lil Noun. So like I'm gregsquirrel.eth, that's my primary ENS name, but also greg.lilnouns.eth resolves to my address as well. And so I can use that anywhere I want, and I can use that like amongst the Lil Nouns community. I'm more likely to use greg.lilnouns.eth than gregsquirrel.eth because it's like a signal. It's a signal that I'm part of this community. I have like stakes in this, and it's just a very fun kind of community building thing. And then I guess the last case that a lot of people are excited about is selling them to either be a part of a community or to get a desirable name. That honestly is like the lesser exciting one of the three. I'm just more into like actually using them and being like fun rather than the selling parts. Although I understand why people are excited about that as well. Um, and so I'd say those are like the three main reasons that come to mind.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely love your take. I will be using subdomains once the name wrapper is released, so that I can go ahead and kind of organize my different wallets under one wallet. So it's pretty exciting. But one more use case that I was thinking about, uh, and I'm not sure if that's going to take off, but I can see how NFT projects can use their ENS parent domain and wrap the NFT with subdomains and make it easier for the community to claim or to mint their subdomains instead of minting NFTs off of their like shady websites. And there's all these kind of scams happening. So my next question would be, what's your vision for ENS in general? Like you're building an ENS, you're very familiar. I saw you built something for the ENS DAO, like their original website that's I'm not sure if it's being used or not, but I also know you did the small grants tool for them as well. So you have a lot of knowledge for with the DAO team. Tell us a little bit about your vision, what you think ENS, where it's going.
Yeah, I think DAOs are really interesting, especially when organized well, like the ENS DAO, in my opinion, compared to some others. I think DAOs are really interesting and a cool way to govern like a truly decentralized protocol. And to me, like at the core of ENS, yes, subdomains are cool. Like adding text records and stuff is very cool and very core to it. But again, like my initial excitement for it of just decentralized naming to make everything easier is is like number one importance to me, I guess, in terms of how I see ENS going forward. It's similar to domain names in like Web 2, right? That is still a very important way to like it's your corner of the internet, right? And so ENS is like your corner of the blockchain, if you want to put it. And ideally, that becomes more of like your corner of the internet as well. But I mean, I think naming is very important and like maybe more important than a lot of people think. And like crypto is very hard to use without naming. And so first and foremost, ENS solves that. And I just see the protocol and the DAO as like a way to govern that and make sure that ENS as a naming protocol and more, but mainly a naming protocol, is viable for as long as blockchains are around.
Yeah, 100%. Naming is going to really make, I mean, it's kind of like on the scale of when the internet came out and it didn't have DNS. And then when DNS came, it made it mass adoption much easier for every average person. Um, I want to ask you about soulbound tokens. Are you familiar with soulbound tokens? What do you think about that? And can you give us a bit more about that?
Yeah, that's cool. Soulbound tokens are interesting. I have my gripes with them, but like sometimes they seem really cool, sometimes they seem problematic. And so I guess I'll start with the problematic part of like my first instinct of reading about soulbound tokens or non-transferable tokens is a more kind of clear way to say it. Um, was this is dangerous because, for example, if I know um, if I know a friend's wallet, right, and a friend I would know like where they live or their personal information or like anything, it's a friend, right? Um, and we get into an argument and we have a falling out and whatever, and I just want to be extremely rude and like dox their wallet and dox everything about them. I want to send them a non-transferable token that has their street address on it and that has their phone number and that has anything that I want to include, or just like an insult or literally anything, then a non-transferable token makes it possible for me to do that, and they can't do anything about it or like get rid of that token. So imagine if an NFT with your home address just showed up into your wallet, and there's literally nothing you can do about it. Uh, to me, that is not ideal for maybe hopefully obvious reasons. And so, like off the bat, that's the first thing that comes to mind as really not great. And I think soulbound tokens people think are like, or I should stick to non-transferable tokens. People think are like very difficult and a new and like um, this and that and whatever. But non-transferable tokens are actually extremely easy to make, And it's the same thing as a normal NFT, except you just like block the transfer function. And so anybody, once more people realize this, I think it'll become more of a problem. Or once there are tools made, or once there are more tools made, or people learn about the tools to easily send non-transferable tokens, I think we'll get into slightly more dangerous waters. But at the same time, non-transferable tokens are pretty cool for a few reasons. Well, yeah. So, for example, I just graduated college recently, right? And I got a piece of paper in the mail that said I graduated, and that's that. And like, cool, exciting, whatever. That piece of paper is going to stay where it is for a long time, and I'm probably not really going to use it much. And that's that. And realistically, if I ever want to apply for a job, if they asked for to see a degree of some sorts, I I feel like right now, if I just show them a piece of paper, it's pretty much like you call it a day, and that's that, which is not a very good form of verification. And so things like verifications for that, or for proving an identity, or kind of various other aspects, non-transferable tokens are cool because a reputable like agency of sorts can send you a non-transferable token that proves you I did graduate college, or proves this or proves that. And not being able to revoke that and seeing who it's coming from because of the blockchain and everything is pretty enticing. But then if you want to go back into the downside, it's like, okay, now what if that wallet gets hacked that I used? If the wallet that I used that got a non-transferable token that proves my identity got hacked, then now a hacker has access to, like, the hacker can control a wallet that verifies I graduated college, or verifies I did this, or verifies I did that. And they didn't do that, but they have access to it, and I can't transfer it out. So now it's like, it's not verifying me, it's verifying that wallet, which won't necessarily always be the wallet that I use. And so I think non-transferable tokens are very cool, but I am not like the biggest fan of them, as some people get like extremely excited. I say I'm probably more on the fear side, honestly.
Well, I really like your take. It's important to discuss the issues that might happen, right, with technology, and kind of build ways to avoid them or prevent them from happening. I'm sure that these are things that will be ironed out. Like you should be able to then authenticate a different wallet if your wallet is hacked. But thank you so much. That's really, that adds a lot of value in my mind. But I wanted to talk about what you're doing now. So you created ENS Ferry, ETH Leaderboard, and much more projects. Are you do you have anything else in the roadmap for these projects, or are you working on anything else, like any new projects we should know about?
Yeah. Right now, I'm working on a few new things for the ENS Ferry. Um, One of those, I mean, I guess both of them I've kind of shared. One is like a hopefully very simple resource that allows people to learn about and set up their ENS name when they first get it. And so my thinking there is like, okay, okay, again, I'm at dinner with somebody, and I use the ENS Ferry to gift them a name. But now it's like, they have a name, they're going to sign in, they're going to connect their wallet to a website, or to a DApp, if you want to call it that. And they won't see their ENS name, and they'll think it doesn't work. Um, but really, they just didn't set their primary name, right? And if we know about ENS, we know you have to set your primary name for it to like reverse resolve and this and that. But people first getting their name don't know that. So I want to set up a page, and I'm currently kind of like thinking through and working through designs of, you get I gift somebody a name, and I send them ensferry.xyz/get started, or start, or onboarding, or whatever. And it's very simple, and just an easy visual of like, this is ENS, this is why it's important, um, this is why I gifted it to you, right? And now you just have to do a few things, take 2 minutes, and take $2 or $3 to do these few things that will make your Web3 experience just that much better. And so onboarding for ENS Ferry is one that's top of mind. Another more like experimental and kind of just fun thing. related to the ferry is a registration bot. And so this would make it even easier. I'm trying to find my tweet of it so I can pin it here. But it would make it even easier to gift an ENS name. And so if you think about it, right now, you have to have your wallet on your phone or your computer when you go to ENS Ferry to register a name, which is fine. Like most people have Rainbow or MetaMask or Coinbase wallet or something, and it works. But maybe that's not always ideal. And you still have to pay attention. You have to place the first transaction. You have to wait a minute for it to go through. Then you have to place the second. That's mostly unavoidable for now. But what if you can just like tweet at ENS Ferry, register name.eth to like OX1234, and you literally just tweet at the ENS Ferry like Twitter bot, and it will register the name and send it to that account for you. And the way it does that is like you would deposit ETH into a contract beforehand. So for example, right now the flow is you go to ENS Ferry, you connect your wallet, you make a first transaction, you wait a minute, you make a second transaction. And that is a lot simpler than it used to be. But what if instead of that, it's like on any random day, I can go send $50 to this ENS Ferry contract, which does not exist right now. And that means I have $50 worth of names that I can buy over the next period of time. And then I'm out at dinner using the same example that I used before. Instead of having to pull out my phone that has a wallet on it and wait a minute, I just open Twitter or open a Telegram bot or something. And I just say at ENS Ferry, register name.eth to OX blah, blah, blah. I put my phone away and it just works automatically. And so I'm really excited by that because it saves even more time. And it's just like fun and cool. So that's the second one, but is definitely slightly further out there because the correct way to do it would be making a contract and stuff, which I am not a smart contract developer. So I would have to get some help with that. So that one's a little bit further out there, but just something that always comes back to me as like very kind of exciting. And so I'm going to try. I don't think I can pin that in the space, but I will send a DM to you right now so you can do that if you'd like.
Yeah, I'll pin it for you. Absolutely. That's huge. I think that feature where I can just use Telegram and register a name and send it to a wallet just with one message is just going to change things. And I really appreciate that you're working on that. We all appreciate that you're building all these features and tools to help with adoption. We need more people like you. And so my next question would be, what's your advice for all the builders and technical or non-technical people moving forward? So what would you say, your story is awesome. What would you tell everybody listening to be doing right now and for the next 2 years?
I think it's more of like a follow your curiosity in whatever way you can. And it's like, you can say, try and buy all the ENS names that have certain patterns and try and sell them and do whatever over the next year. But I try and approach it through just like a more kind of like fun angle of like, what am I naturally gravitating towards and like what sounds exciting. Like I literally I'm very lucky that I can do this, but as much as possible I try and just wake up and be like, okay, what sounds exciting today, and then I'm just going to spend as much time as I have open that day to explore exactly that. So if it's learning how to code in a new like framework or something, then I will do that and I'll watch a bunch of like YouTube video tutorials. Or if it's talk to cool crypto people, then I will. Or if it's like whatever. And a lot of the times I just wake up and that happens to be like build something fun on ENS, or like add a new page to ENS Ferry, or improve ETH Leaderboard in one way or another. But I just say like follow your curiosity as much as possible, and that can be very fun.
Yeah, I love that. Yes, follow your curiosity. Don't be scared to experiment and learn new things. I'm definitely trying to learn smart contract development. I'm not a technical person. I come from Web 2. I was a product manager, so I led different software teams to build Web 2 products. But this is a new thing that I'm very excited about. My last question before we ask the audience if the audience maybe have questions for you. Please, by the way, those of you in the audience, if you have questions, please request now. We have about 7 minutes left on the space before we close up. My last question would be, in your mind, what would be the catalyst to trigger mass adoption at a larger scale for ENS? And when do you think we will hit that critical mass?
That's a big question. I don't know if there's a specific. Yeah, I'm not really sure, honestly. Like the growth from when I started like talking to people about ENS or paying attention or even got my ENS name has been like a lot more than I expected. I mean, as we maybe all know, it's like the number of registered names I think doubled in like 1 month. That took a few years to get to. At some point, fairly recently, that happened, and then there were like a million new names in a month, or maybe not that much, but like a million new names pretty quickly. And so to see stuff like that is like kind of wild. I think the better indicator of like adoption is how many primary names are set versus how many names are registered. Because people registering their names is always exciting, and it's good for the protocol because it makes it's revenue for the DAO, which supports builders and community members and everything to build on ENS, which allows more people to register and learn about and so on. It's a good cycle. But when people set a primary ENS name, to me, that's a good sign of like, I have this wallet that I use regularly. I want it to be easier to use. And the best way to do that is by registering and using an ENS name. And so I think the amount of unique wallets that have a primary name set is like the key thing that I am kind of interested in. And right now, I think that recently crossed 500,000, but I could be making that up. And so that's like the metric that I enjoy looking at.
Yeah, I think it's about 540,000 now. It's moving very slowly, not as fast as registrations, obviously. And you're right. I think that's the metric that we need to focus on because that's what that means is that's how many people are actually using the utility of ENS by setting an ENS as their primary name for their wallet. Greg, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed this. I learned a lot from you, and I'm very excited for your journey, for what you're going to be building, and would love to have you in the future to talk about more updates and on your tools. Anything else you want to add before we end this space?
Nothing much comes to mind. I just want to say thanks for bringing me on. This was super fun. You're a really smooth host, so this went very well for me. It was easy for me. So yeah, I appreciate everyone's support. I'm always open to kind of feedback or new ideas. If anybody has them, feel free to send me a DM. I'm Greg Skrill on Twitter or gregskrill.eth. And yeah, that's about all. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Are you going to DEF CON?
I am, yes.
Oh,
So,
perfect. I'll see you there. I'll
oh,
hit you up.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I would love to meet you in person. And again, thanks for joining us, everybody. Please go ahead and follow Greg. Check out ENS Fairy and Eat Leaderboard. We will be posting this on our podcast and YouTube so that it will be archived for years to come for all the newcomers to the space. And thank you, everybody, for joining us, and have a wonderful day.